Anyway, let's get started. Keep in mind, we will not include ships we don't have a lot of information about, like the battleship or brigantine. The reason being that while those ships are known to be very strong, the lack of information on them means that we cannot know for sure whether they have fundamental flaws or not. Thus, we aren't counting them as a pro or con. The first advantage is the energy projector. Article 8, Clause C of the Humanity First Codebook states, when in doubt, exterminatus. Unfortunately, sometimes aliens can glass entire planets too. Coming in a variety of different types, from excavation beam to plasma lance, energy projectors are exceptionally powerful planet-cracking, capital warship-destroying weapons, even relative to glassing weapons used by other space navies. Energy projectors fire a thin beam of plasma and require a period of time to charge between attacks. Most forms of the weapon the Covenant uses have a huge range, usually somewhere in the realm of 100,000 kilometers, and don't need to be close to a target to exact supreme destruction. Energy projectors are easily able to penetrate the UNSC's Titanium A armor and present a serious challenge to humanity's chances for survival. The next advantage is the CAS-class assault carrier, a 17,500-foot-long capital warship. The assault carrier is designed for ship-to-ship combat, command and control of fleet operations, and as support ships for ground forces. At over 17,000 feet long, the ship is one of the Covenant's larger ships and is deployed only during the most important operations, such as invasions of important planets. The ship is fortified with nano-laminate plating, armor strong enough to stop many UNSC weapons aside from MAC cannons. More importantly, the ship's energy shields are some of the strongest the Covenant fleet has to offer. The High Prophet of Regret's assault carrier flagship Solemn Penance penetrated Earth's orbital defense despite facing an onslaught of fire from Cairo Station. The assault carrier has special tech called modular dispersal technology, which allows it to detach damaged sections during battle, thus increasing the chances of salvaging the rest of the ship. The ship is also one of the most well-armed in the Covenant fleet, boasting multiple energy projectors and an array of pulse laser turrets and plasma torpedoes. The next advantage is the CSO-class supercarrier, a Covenant capital warship. At 95,000 feet long, only dumb aliens would build such a big ship. The vessel, designed for similar operations as the assault carrier, dwarfs all other Covenant ship classes, and given its prodigious size, is also, like the assault carrier, used only during the most important operations. Of course, put next to the assault carrier, the full extent of the Covenant's creativity is on display. Supercarriers are the Covenant's most powerful vessels. The ship is armed with 7 energy projectors, thousands of pulse lasers, turrets, and plasma torpedo launchers. The ship also houses hundreds of smaller ships it can deploy along with entire Covenant armies. The legendary Covenant supercarrier Long Night of Solace played a crucial role in the invasion of Reach, deploying forces, ships, and all sorts of technology from orbit to the surface of the planet. The next advantage is faster than light travel. As we spoke about in our videos on the UNSC, humans in Halo have not mastered FTL travel, but for the most part, the Covenant has. Like the UNSC, the Covenant fleet uses slipspace for superluminal transportation, but does so in a much more sophisticated way, resulting in much faster journeys from point A to B. The Covenant slipspace drive is more reliable than the Shaw Fujikawa Translite engine the UNSC uses, allowing Covenant ships to avoid suffering from the temporal fluidity that human vessels do. Covenant ships cut a very fine hole in the fabric of space-time, enter slipspace at a precise point, execute a series of micro-jumps through slipspace, and also exit slipspace at a precise point and time. The Covenant's more advanced technology allows for much faster and more accurate travel times, with their ships able to travel at about 912 light-years per day compared to the UNSC's travel rate of 2.625 light-years per day. Additionally, the more precise technology allows the Covenant to avoid human defenses and gain positional advantage. Using quick, short slipstream jumps, Covenant ships can even evade missiles which cannot track through slipspace. The next advantage is interstellar communication. While the UNSC has trouble communicating across the vastness of space and utilize very new technology to do so, the Covenant, as with FTL travel, have pretty much mastered it. The Covenant also use slip space for interstellar communications, but the Covenant have communication relays installed on some of their ships and planets that enable communication across space. This communication system is called the Proselytization Network, which not only allows for superluminal communication, but also for the prophets on High Charity, the Covenant's now defunct mobile capital city, to stay connected with their armies and ensure their continued obedience. At the Covenant's height, their ships contained an automated messaging system that transmitted orders and messages from ship to ship on arrival or departure from a star system. Due to Covenant arrogance and ignorance of their own technology, these messages are not properly encrypted and are liable to interception. But nonetheless, the Covenant is able to rapidly send information across interstellar space. The next advantage is the ORS-class heavy cruiser. This capital warship is used for planetary occupations and as support ships for Covenant flagships. Like other ships in the Covenant fleet, it is well armed and armored. The ship is equipped with 3 plasma beam emitters, 16 plasma torpedoes, 48 plasma cannons, and 2 energy projectors capable of blowing up worlds or bisecting UNSC warships. Though I suppose my pet gerbil could bisect a UNSC warship. He is a feral one. What makes this ship unique is that it also features stealth technology, making the ship capable of reconnaissance missions despite its length of almost 10,000 feet. The next advantage is the CPV-class heavy destroyer. This is, of course, a destroyer warship, coming in at only 5,460 feet long, and it makes the list because, like the ships before it, it still packs a punch despite being downsized. And that's the thing with the Covenant fleet. All of its ships are similar, as we see with the supercarrier and assault carrier. The heavy destroyer is the workhorse offensive ship of the Covenant Navy. But it doesn't just engage in ship-to-ship combat. The destroyer is actually the ship that most often engages in glassing operations, given its energy projector and crew of misfits and outcasts that were seen as low enough to undertake such missions. The ship also has 2 plasma beam emitters, 24 plasma cannons, 6 torpedoes, 20 pulse laser turrets, and 40 plasma bombardment mortars. Again, all not too unlike other Covenant ships, but packed into a much smaller vessel, affording the Covenant a ship made for heavy combat that they can produce and use frequently. The next advantage is the Covenant Spire, a structure that serves as the base of operations for Covenant forces on the ground. The spires allow soldiers, vehicles, and weapons to be teleported to a planet's surface from Covenant vessels in orbit, eliminating the need for conventional atmospheric entry. Spires are also capable of projecting energy shields over a large radius, thus affording protection to recently teleported forces and to the spire itself. The shields are resistant to conventional weapons and can disable enemy vehicles that pass through them, making spire shield zones hazardous areas for the UNSC on the battlefield. Given that the spires are self-protected and difficult to destroy, they are a critical part of Covenant invasion efforts and a nightmare for UNSC forces to deal with. The next advantage is the DSC-class support ship. Very few support ships in Space Navy history are as important as the Covenant DSC-class one. The ship is fairly well armed with a variety of plasma weaponry, but it largely stays out of combat. The ship instead provides food and supplies to Covenant soldiers. The ship itself actually contains large hunting preserves with many animals that can be killed and served to its tenant fleet. The ship also has assembly forges that manufacture food packs, maintenance kits, clothing, and even small weapons. The ships, at over 5,000 feet long, are gigantic mobile factories that the Covenant can send along with any fleet. The final advantage is High Charity. In effect, High Charity was a massive space station that housed billions of Covenant denizens and functioned not only as the Covenant's capital city and seat of government, but also as a holy city and religious center. Powered by the engines of the decommissioned Forerunner Dreadnought, the structure was 348 kilometers in diameter and 505 kilometers in height. High Charity was protected by some of the biggest fleets in the Covenant Armada, but the station itself had weapons platforms built into its bedrock with firepower surpassing that of even the most powerful Covenant ships. The city boasted 32 super heavy plasma lances and 1,900 plasma beam emitters, both types of energy projectors. High Charity was then further guarded by a rapid detection network of slip-space probes that could track even the smallest objects coming into close proximity of the city and mark them for obliteration. Of course, High Charity also functioned to refit and house thousands of Covenant vessels. Yes, I know ultimately High Charity was destroyed under extreme circumstances by former child abductee John 117, but the Covenant's ability to build such a structure is a huge advantage. That the Covenant's capital city, housing its most important leaders, technology, and a mass of Covenant subjects, was mobile, allowed the Covenant to avoid the Achilles heel that most species in the galaxy face, having a home world that is at the mercy of the part of space it is located in, and thus vulnerable to all sorts of changing conditions and threats around it. High Charity can simply move from place to place as needed. Now you might point out that High Charity required the Dreadnought's power to operate, but actually only a fraction of the Dreadnought's engine's potential output was needed to power the city, and High Charity also possessed a set of backup auxiliary reactors that were capable of generating enough power for slip-space travel. Point being, the Covenant can probably build another one and don't need to innovate new technology to do so. Which is great, because they're dumb as hell. Okay, it's time to rate the Covenant Navy once again on a scale of 1 to 5. Please click in the top right corner to do so. And don't forget to watch the flaws video and vote at the end of that one as well. Coming up, we have the series finale where we announce the results, so please stay tuned for that and hit that subscribe button and notification bell. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram if you want to follow Alan and I's upcoming journey in Thailand. For now, I'm American Ben, reminding you to never forget the men and women who have perished throughout the universe fighting aliens, heroes who died protecting freedom. We fight on for them, my brethren, and for Argentina. I'll catch you next time. Generation Films, peace.